The goal of the challenge is simple. All we are trying to do is beat Dark Souls using our right hand as little as possible. Obviously, a true left-handed only playthrough is not possible without using glitches, because picking up key items forces you to use your right hand. So if this were the case, we wouldn't even be able to leave the Asylum, since we have to pick up the key Oscar drops to even start the game. This brings us to the second rule of the run. We may only use our right hand if we cannot progress without it. I'm not using any major glitches aside from duping, which I'll get to in a second, so I have no choice but to use my right hand to pick up key items. Also, because I want to defeat every boss, even the ones that are not required to finish the game, I'm allowed to pick up any key items that open up optional areas. For example, I may pick up the doll in the Asylum, since that's the only way to access the Painted World in the Priscilla fight, but I may not pick up the cage key to unlock the lift in Sen's Fortress, no matter how convenient it is, because it's not necessary to progress through the area. All other right-handed actions are not allowed under any circumstances. I may not pick up any non-essential items, I may not equip any weapons in my right hand, and I may not use any items with my right hand. This means I may not use estus flasks, and I may not use any consumables. No exceptions. No matter how much I want to, I can't use Homeward Bones or Humanity. I can't even use soul items. So no soul duping is allowed, unless it is done with Framped, since that doesn't require me to use my hands. But perhaps the most inconvenient is that I may not light bonfires. However, I am free to sit at any bonfires that are already lit by a firekeeper, which gives me a total of 3 bonfires. Lastly, I am allowed to use my left hand for casting spells. However, I will only use support spells in this run, such as healing and buffs. While using my left hand to cast offensive magic wouldn't technically be against the rules, I would rather not do it because using spells on your offhand is a pretty standard Dark Souls mage playthrough, and I want to focus on melee for this challenge. This is a run I've been considering for a while, and also one that many people have requested. However, it has been done a couple of times by now, but each run I've found seems to have a very different rule set. So if you are interested in seeing other takes on this idea, I've linked the other playthroughs I found in the description. With that out of the way, let's begin the run. I know it'll be a good one when I'm regretting the decisions I made before I even finish with the character creation screen. Of all the things the character does with their right hand, opening doors is not one of them. I never noticed that before and assumed I would have to make an exception for it. I guess I could have chosen the Master Key as my starting gift after all. Oh well, at least I can't pick up any items, so it's not like it would have changed that much about the run. We'll just have to get it at the intended point in the game. As you may have noticed, I was using the mace in the intro, but am no longer using it now that the actual game is starting. That's because I only picked it up as a demonstration for left-hand weapons. From now on, we will not be using any weapons looted off the ground. Sadly, this means we're stuck with either the broken sword or our fists for the Asylum demon once again. This isn't difficult in theory, but over the course of the 30 minutes this will probably take, your eyes are going to start glazing over at some point, and you'll find yourself getting hit by stupid stuff. But this time I can't heal myself, so I need to be extra careful to not lose all that progress. That's one good thing at least. Time is really the only thing I have to lose. There's not much else at stake here. I was given a second chance after I nearly died halfway in, and I knew it was a sign that this was the one, so I had to stay focused on the booty and nothing else for another 15 minutes. Oh yeah, and while I'm opening this door, two-handed actions like what you see now are allowed, just not two-handed weapons obviously, since those all use a right-handed grip. Now that we've arrived at Firelink Shrine, we can buy a talisman off of Petrus, and finally have access to our healing miracles. We can get 1 level with whatever we have left, so I'll put that towards Faith. It has already been established that we won't be able to pick up any weapons in this run, but not to worry. We have other options for getting weapons that don't require using our right hand. The most obvious method is buying them off of merchants, but first we need to get some souls. Even the most basic enemies take a very long time to kill with our left hand, using either fists or the broken sword we start with, so our best bet is to lure them off the edges of cliffs and farm souls that way. As we do this, we can also try to get a weapon from the local Black Knight. Anything dropped by the Black Knights will automatically be added to our inventory, if we're lucky enough to get it. Sadly, the drop rate for weapons isn't that high, even with the single soft humanity the enemies had given me, so I wasn't blessed with a strong weapon to start the run with. On the bright side, that process has given us quite a few souls, so we can go to the merchant and buy ourselves a better weapon. I'm choosing the reinforced club. This one is an early game staple, so it should last us at least until we make it past Sin's Fortress. We'll be sure to kill any Titanite lizards we see as we go along. Twinkling Titanite is a very valuable resource in this run, and lizards are one of the few sources of upgrade materials we have this early on. Now that we're actually prepared for a fight, we can head straight to the Taurus Demon. We can't plunge with a left-hand weapon, so we'll have to really get in there and fight this time. The Reinforced Club is not a bad choice at all against the Taurus Demon. It has decent bleed buildup, it does decent damage, and it staggers him quickly for a one-handed weapon. This fight was a good way for me to practice spacing out a boss to use heal. It's much harder to find an opening for miracles than it is to chug estus flasks, and most of the time I ended up trading a bit of what I healed to survive being interrupted mid-heal. I always struggle to not get clipped by the AoE after his slams, but this can also be prevented with decent spacing. Anyways, now that we have our shortcut to Firelink Shrine, it would probably be a good idea to get at least a little vitality, but I mainly want to focus on attunement for now so we can eventually have more casts of heal. As I kill more non-respawning enemies, I am reminded that not all of them will automatically add a drop into your inventory. This feeling of pain when I see a shiny that is so close, yet still unreachable, is something that I'm going to have to learn how to deal with. Mini-bosses are one of our best sources of souls when we can't pick up soul items, so I'll likely be taunted by many more drops as the run goes on. However, with these souls, we can buy some Titanite shards from Andre to upgrade our club. Thankfully, his supply is infinite, so we can farm a few more enemies around the parish until we have enough souls for a couple of upgrades. Since we're here, we might as well pick up the basement key, one of our first mandatory right-hand uses of the run. I'm not going down there just yet. We should at the very least get the gargoyles out of the way before we start going down below. I'll admit, this one was a bit of a struggle for me. Between screwing up my dodges and not having enough time to heal after my mistakes, the gargoyles were the first real challenge of the run. Normally, this one is pretty simple to breeze through regardless of your build, but that's usually because I have my estus, so I don't have to worry about taking a few hits. When I have to slowly cast a healing miracle every time I take a hit, I realize how much I've been brute forcing it when, frankly, I lack the dodging skills and vitality to do so. Sometimes the slope of the roof can save you if you're lucky, but most of the time, healing right next to a gargoyle is a bad idea because they recover from attacks way too quickly. I also didn't have any poise at all, so I was getting stun-locked by the fire breath, which is their easiest attack, so that was a little embarrassing. So after all that, I decided it would be worth it to farm for a couple more Titanite shards to upgrade our club just a bit more. We just need to kill a couple of things around the map and we'll be all set. With our reinforced club at +4, we should be able to melt through the first gargoyle in no time, but even if we don't, the second phase should be easier in theory since the fire attack gives us a great chance to heal if things go awry. I played much more patiently than I had before, and of course a little good luck is still a factor. And after a short fight, the gargoyles were finally out of the way. I don't know why, but I made an impulse purchase with Oswald and bought a Ring of Sacrifice. If only I had known that a Baldur Knight followed me all the way up here and blocked off my only exit while I was fighting. Well, there's nothing I can do about it now. Okay then, that's a little upsetting, but 5k is nothing we can't easily make back by killing the Moonlight Butterfly, for instance. The damage was a lot worse than I expected, and I was going to grit my teeth and get through it anyway, but then I died and figured that another very repetitive fight is probably not the best for me right now. So, I went down to the lower Undead Burg to clear my mind a bit, as any sane person would do. This area was surprisingly easy for me to sprint through, but I'm still thankful that I can open the shortcut with my left hand. I guess the easy run through the level got to my head. I started thinking I was too good to use the stairs and wasted a perfect opportunity to get the Capra Demon on the first try. Before I try that again, I think it would be a good idea to kill this Titanite demon to get the souls we need for another upgrade on our reinforced club. All I can do is sadly gaze at yet another drop that eludes my grasp. Once we're finished upgrading the club, I get a few levels into dexterity. I don't remember exactly what the plan was here, but I did consider using the spear at some point and changed my mind, so that may have had something to do with it. Anyways, the next time I made sure to use the stairs and patiently wait for a chance to kill both dogs before facing the Capra Demon, topping off my health before I do so to be safe. Logically, the next step is to open up the depths and make our way down to the Gaping Dragon. We can't really do much else down here since we can't pick anything up, including the large ember. While our character does open chests with both hands, the item inside has to be picked up with the right hand, so items found in chests are still off limits. It sucks, but it is what it is. We'll just have to find a special weapon that doesn't require embers to be upgraded to its max. Until we find one, we're stuck with a +5 reinforced club, which will barely hold us over until Anor Londo. It's already starting to fall off damage-wise against the Gaping Dragon, and the bleed won't be very helpful in this fight either. This boss has a very simple moveset, so there's not much to worry about as long as you don't get greedy. If you don't have any poise, you're not getting out of here. What I'd really like to do is get the tail cut. 50 strength is a little too expensive for this run, so I'll probably end up selling it later. Frampt will pay a lot for dragon weapons. Once I'm done with this, I sort of have a better idea of what I want to do with my stats. I can't two-hand anything, so I want to be sure I am leveling strength and dex since I am forced to meet the full requirements. Let's quickly dispose of Lautrec before Blighttown, and see how the club is looking against Quelaag. This isn't really a good way to test it because that wasn't the club's fault, but I'm ready to find a new weapon anyway, so I'll put her off a little longer so we can hopefully get something to drop. We're gonna go on a Black Knight hunt, starting with the halberd wielder and Darkroot. I'm just going to make him fall off a cliff because I don't feel like fighting him normally. He follows you way out to the tower, which happens to be next to a cliff, so the plan is to stand on the edge for a while and bait out a jump attack. But if nothing else works, you can always sacrifice yourself for the cause. That seems to be a consistent method against them. I went back here to kill the Hydra too, just for some easy souls, and so we can start Dusk's quest when we're ready. We'll use those souls to buy another copy of Heal, then, as a last resort, cut off the Hellkite Drake's tail for the Drake Sword, since the possibility of getting a Black Knight weapon is looking kinda bleak. None of the Black Knights I'd fought up to this point had dropped anything, so I went back to the Undead Parish to fight the Ultra Greatsword Knight on the tower. This one takes way more strength to use than the other weapons, but I might as well try for it anyway. I didn't get the drop, but something interesting did happen to me when I fought this guy. When he chased me down the stairs, he ended up getting himself stuck in the wall and eventually just fell out of the map. I've never seen this happen with this particular enemy, but I have seen similar glitches, so it makes you wonder how many more are still out there. After stopping at Firelink for one more level, I went down to try Quelaag again, using the Drake Sword after all. The damage is not going to be any better than any +5 weapon at this point, but it is a lot faster than the reinforced club, and we don't have to worry about the stumbling animation on whiff. Investing in those extra casts of heal was a great idea since I can't cure my poison. I'm forced to burn a lot of casts on the way to the fight. The fight itself is not too difficult once we get our bearings, and as always, let's get her brother out of the way before we go back up to the lift. Ceaseless Discharge will only aggro if I pick up his sister's clothing, so this is another situation where I'm forced to use my right hand for game progression. I'm sure there are plenty of ways to glitch past him, but it's much more practical to treat the gold-hemmed set as a key item. Other than that detail I needed to clarify, there's nothing else worth mentioning with this fight. But once it's over, we have a lot of souls and can finally get dexterity to 20 and put some much needed points into vitality. To get through Sin's Fortress, I ended up swapping back to the reinforced club. The damage seemed to be slightly better than the Drake Sword, and the bleed buildup was useful for the various serpents and giants we'd have to get through on our way to the boss. I fought the Iron Golem with this weapon before and didn't have any issues. As long as you play carefully and don't let him toss you off the ledge, you'll do enough damage to knock him over. From there, the fight should be pretty easy, and you'll be in Anor Londo before you know it. I've been looking forward to getting here. This is where we finally can buy Twinkling Titanite and start upgrading a special weapon. All we need to do is make it to the cathedral, so we can speak with the giant blacksmith and buy the giant's halberd. Then we'll be set for the rest of the run. For this reason, I've saved the souls from the Golem fight so we can buy the halberd along with a few pieces of Twinkling Titanite. Of course, the one time I die running through here, I'm carrying all these souls. But it's okay, we can just run past these guys and get them back. What am I doing? I have the Ring of Sacrifice! Well, that's enough to crush all my delusions of grandeur, but I won't curl up and die yet. We haven't run out of options. In fact, we can make back most of what we lost from the stray demon, this time keeping on the Ring of Sacrifice just in case. We won't be doing too much damage with a +5 weapon, but we will have the bleed to help us out. Plus, his patterns are very simple if we just stay behind him and wait for openings. This time, I'm gonna spin the levels right away and worry about buying the halberd later. We need more strength to use it anyway. To make up for the rest of the souls I lost, I am finally returning to Darkroot for a rematch with the Moonlight Butterfly. But apparently I still struggle against bosses that only have 3 attacks, so I died again. I tried to heal through it in an act of rebellion. I can't be mad at how that ended for me, since I only have myself to blame. This is even more embarrassing considering that all I had to do was literally walk in one direction and all the projectiles miss. After that, one can only stop and reflect on all the terrible life choices they'd made over the years to still be dying to the Moonlight Butterfly. At least Frampt is here, so we can sell all the boss souls to him. They're useless to us on this run since we can't use embers. We can use the souls we have left over to buy the bottomless box and the master key because we might as well at this point. And after getting some levels, I return to Anor Londo, where I can finally purchase my precious halberd. After that, I return to Firelink Shrine to sell even more junk to Frampt until we have enough to buy the Homeward Miracle from Petrus. Now we descend into the catacombs, using the skip of course. We want to get the Rite of Kindling before any of those other clerics get it. We can't use it, so they don't get to either. I wonder what kind of mask he dropped this time. The world will never know. Unfortunately, our business down here is not finished yet. After we return to Firelink to spin the Pinwheel souls, we still need to go back down to get those pesky Titanite lizards. Even though I could dupe materials at this point, exploration is still fun to me no matter how many years I've been playing. It's the farming that gets tedious over time. Unfortunately, Andre is gonna have to die because I'm not paying for that crest on top of everything else I need souls for. Why would we even need him anyway? His job can be done by a box. He's a lot tougher than other NPCs and has his own moveset. Usually I save him for the end of a run if I kill him at all, so I've never had enough time to appreciate it. I guess I still didn't get much time to appreciate it because he was literally kicking my ass and I only beat him through cowardice. Of course, this is the one thing my character uses his left hand to open. This is what I get for killing Andre. Well, if I die, I have to come all the way back from Firelink Shrine. Hopefully that will be enough motivation for me. This fight is similar to the Four Kings because Sif's attacks are much more powerful the farther away you are. However, even if staying under Sif means you'll be safe from her next attack, you have to dodge through one of her attacks to get there, and if you mess up the timing, you will be punished hard. There's also some classic Dark Souls jank involved here. Sometimes she will clip out of bounds, which puts the sword's hitbox in a strange place. She also catches up to me very quickly, and I got punished for every heal I did on my first attempt at this. The run back is long, but at least it isn't difficult. There aren't any powerful enemies in the way besides the crystal golems. But it definitely has numbed my mind at least a little if I'm getting hit by the limping attacks. I'm not even embarrassed or annoyed or anything, I'm just sad. Seeing as that wasn't nearly enough souls to get my strength where it needs to be, I think we can safely say that we're left with no choice but to dupe. Legally, of course. As always, I only dupe to save time, and in a run where I can't even use any of the bonfires closest to the best farming spots, this is going to save us several hours. Now that we can use the Giant's Halberd, it's time to upgrade it as much as we can before we go to face ONS. It may make the fight more difficult, but I decided to kill Smo first so we can get the Leo ring from Ornstein. Since we'll be using this halberd for a while and we haven't found any rings, it could be helpful to have the counter damage boost for the physical side of the halberd. The lightning damage portion isn't going to be that helpful against Ornstein's second phase, but Smo hardly has any resistance to lightning and will go down very quickly. Although I didn't have that much time to test it, the damage we do to Ornstein is not so good, as I expected, but my main struggle here wasn't really the fact that damage was low, it was more that I struggled to actually get any hits on him in the first place. I did end up farming some of the enemies outside the cathedral so I could upgrade the halberd to +5, but that was really just to get Smo out of the way as fast as I can so I can get used to Super Ornstein again. After a few tries, I was ready to take a break and go do something else. The first thing I did was buy the Thoralind talisman from Petrus since it has a higher magic adjustment for our healing. I didn't actually pick up the peculiar doll earlier, so now I have to go back to the Asylum and do that so we can go to the Painted World. I had a little run-in with the Black Knight guarding the cell, but despite all odds, I managed to survive it. The game could only give me a shield for my display of bravery. Of course, all of the Black Knights were very stingy with their weapons the one time I really needed them. But anyways, let's go to the Painted World and get those souls from Priscilla. There isn't anything else I can do here without the use of my right hand. Turning the contraption is another two-handed action, so no problems there. All we have to do now is proceed to the end of the level after getting what we need from Priscilla. Her dagger has the highest bleed rating of all the daggers, so it may be a good idea to get that from the tail cut. We have to be careful not to kill her beforehand. Once we're done, we can finally get another attunement slot, which we'll use later. For now, I want to adjust my loadout so we stand more of a chance against Ornstein. The first step is to get some armor that has poise. I chose the Balder set, which we can purchase from the Crestfallen Merchant on our way back to Firelink. After this, we can sell any items we've accumulated to Frampt, and if that's still not enough, we'll feed him a Quelaag soul one by one until we have enough endurance to mid-roll with the halberd. Whatever we have left, we can use to buy the Thunderstone plate ring from our friend here before we go back to Anor Londo. While I don't mind mid-rolling in the first phase, for the second phase, the damage on the halberd wasn't much different than my club, so I ended up switching to that because I could fast roll and still have the benefits that came with the Balder set. And when we finally beaten him, we'll have the Leo ring to show for it. Where is it? Oh, it's not added to your inventory like everything else. You have to pick it up. Alright, let's get those levels so we can finally use the Homeward Miracle. This is going to be a great quality of life thing going forward. Not that I don't appreciate the scenery in Lordran, sometimes it just gets a little tiring, you know? We are going to rescue Dusk before we go to the archives, just so we can get all the DLC keys in one go. While we're out here, she does offer some support spells that could be useful to us in this playthrough, and of course she sells a catalyst, so we'll take that as well. Obviously, I'd allow the use of the giant door key to escape the prison, but wouldn't it be more fun to try out the skip this time? After all, if we do this, we won't have to use our right hand at all. It might take a few tries, but it's surprisingly easy to pull off, and once you get the hang of it, it's a useful trick for those who aren't a fan of the prison break segment. Seath himself is ridiculously easy. But he's still deserving of my respect since my character is very weak and could probably be one-shotted by him if I made any mistakes. I am already so thankful to have Homeward. I know we all make fun of Petrus, but we have to give credit where credit is due. If it weren't for him, I'd be walking to Anor Londo to get these levels. Next, we'll be going through Lost Izalith. I figured this would be a good way to earn some souls for those spells we just bought. I don't particularly feel like going through the Tomb of Giants without a light source again. The Demon Fire Sage is going to be easy souls for us. As long as you stay behind him, he won't be able to hurt you. I did spend the souls before rushing straight towards the Centipede Demon because I had a feeling that something like this might happen. Not leveling Vitality has once again come to haunt me because I don't have enough HP to survive the little lava section in front of the island on the right. Luckily, there is an island in the middle that I nearly forgot about that I can get to, and now that I'm looking at it, I think there's a bit more space here than the one I usually fight on, so I might start using this one going forward. As we learned earlier, special shortcuts don't follow the same rule as doors. As much as I'd hoped this one would be different, it is in fact opened with the right hand. I will say, even after going back through the lava, it's not as long as a walk as I remembered. I guess that's not really surprising, since most of the level is comprised of empty space. And butts. After this, I continued to level intelligence to at least 14, so we can use both of the support spells we got from Dusk. From here, we'll take care of the Bed of Chaos so we can be done with this area for good. This fight hasn't been nearly as bad for me ever since I started using the quit out strategy. Since we've got a few more spells to use, it would be wise to level Attunement until we unlock another slot. I decided to enter the DLC next. Originally, I was going to make an exception for the first bonfire of the level, but that seemed to be breaking the rules too much. Remember, I said if it isn't absolutely necessary for progression, I have to keep my word no matter how convenient. And this will be very inconvenient for me if I die, because I have to come all the way back here from Firelink Shrine every time I die. Normally, I don't have many issues with this fight, but after what happened with Seath, I should have known I'd be stuck here for a little while. I did test out Priscilla's dagger for a bit, but the bleed buildup was too slow, even though the bleed effect itself is very strong. So, in the end, I just had to get good and adjust to mid-rolling again. After I did that, this was a very quick fight with the Giant's Halberd. I learned my lesson. This time I'll level Vitality again, I swear. Now that I have cast light, I'm no longer afraid of the Tomb of the Giants. It's here where I will get a very useful miracle from Rhea when I rescue her at the beginning of the area. The rest of the level was still a little scary even with the light. The run back here from Firelink Shrine is not the best, but since I went through the trouble of killing off the necromancers, it wasn't nearly as bad with the skip. The only thing that bothered me about it is that I have to waste a few of my heals for it, but I'm usually left with just a little under 10, and that should still be fine for Nito if I don't screw up and get inflicted with his toxin. Getting toxicked is the most annoying thing about this fight since I can't use any items to heal it, and the one spell that heals poison is in a chest, so I can't pick that up either. My biggest problem was getting ganged up on by the skeletons and getting trapped while Nito was charging something up. So to help with this, I put on the Gargoyle Helm for a small poise boost, and it seemed to help a little, but it could be another weird placebo effect that often happens by changing gear. Either way, it influenced my stat allocation when I went back to level in Firelink. I liked having poise, so I started working on endurance again. After this, I duped some souls to buy everything I needed from Rhea. However, it wasn't actually necessary because she's very generous, unlike some merchants I know. I'm looking at you, Logan. Since I would have just farmed to get it, let's just spend the rest on getting an extra attunement slot. I mean, why not, right? We bought those spells to use them. This may sound strange, but I actually want to get cursed. We may not be able to use purging stones, but we can use Ingward's services to lift our curse when we're ready. We want to go through New Londo cursed for obvious reasons. I can't use transient curses, and I can't pick up any cursed weapons. As long as you're patient, the infamous ghost room before the roof isn't so bad. Just be sure to lure a few of them outside before rushing in, and only go in when you're sure that only stragglers are left. Okay, so we have a minor issue here. I need to get uncursed, but I forgot. He doesn't do it for free. He needs soft humanity, and I don't have any, so, yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for what to do. The only way to get humanity in this run is to kill certain enemies when an area boss is still alive, because that'll automatically add it to my humanity counter, but I've killed basically everything at this point, and Gwyndolin didn't seem to count, because none of the Painting Guardians were dropping it anymore, and I know I never reached the cap of 10. I was so desperate that I went online since this was recorded during Return to Lordran. I thought maybe I could just help people with bosses and get my humanity that way. Nope. You place the summon sign with your right hand too. I started to panic and wonder how I would be able to get uncursed. I could technically dupe and max out my health, but that's no fun. This would have to be another obstacle to overcome, just like everything else. So, we will be duping, but only because I wanted to get 30 endurance anyway. My goal is to have enough to fast roll with the halberd, even if we have to take off all our armor to do it. Why? Because we're gonna have to fight Artorias so we can get humanity from the bloatheads. And since we have no health, we can't get hit at all, so dodging is the only option. As this fight always is, it's going to be a matter of patiently waiting out our openings and holding back the desire to punish after everything he does. We can take a few risks, but most of the time any risk we take is not worth it because we'll most likely just die to whatever punish he uses on us. If we do manage to take a hit and live, we need to be equally patient when picking a moment to heal. By now, I've adjusted to the long cast time, so I already have a good idea of what the best openings are here. For instance, I can create some distance and bait out the leap for a really good chance to heal. And I don't mean to brag, but this also isn't the first time I've gotten naked for Artorias, so I have some experience fighting this way. Earlier, I was talking about some weird placebo effects happening in this game. Well, this time, I wasn't technically naked as you can see, I had gloves on. The weird thing is, when I wasn't wearing them, I did a lot worse, but when I started wearing them, it was like an instant improvement. I just started playing better. Suddenly, I don't want to take them off. What if I get cursed again for angering the gloves? I've been very excited to get the Gold Tracer in this run. It's one of the few weapons that has a unique left-handed moveset, so it will be very fun to use it for the remaining few bosses. It'll take more dex to get there, but in the meantime, we can kill some bloat heads until we get our soft humanity. After finally shedding the curse, I could shed my lucky gloves too, as I no longer needed them. And I turned out fine. It took a while to get here, but we're finally gonna fight the Four Kings, which will hopefully be the last fight with the Giant's Halberd. It's done its job well, but I can't say I'm not ready to have a quick weapon with no whiff staggering. I honestly expected it to do more damage than it did. It isn't terrible or anything, it's just that the Four Kings are weak to lightning, so it felt underwhelming. The fight still wasn't that bad, using the usual method of staying up close and sidestepping. This is the first time in a while that I saw more than 4 kings. Since the DLC is up next, we need to start working on vitality again. Of course, I'm also going to get dexterity to 25 so we can use the Gold Tracer. I plan to use it for the rest of the game for a change of pace. First, we're going to clear out Ulasil Township and get the crest key from this mimic. We can't kill Calamite with our left hand if Goff doesn't shoot him down for us, so it's a necessary exception for the run. Before we fight Calamite, we'll also kill this Titanite lizard in the Abyss so we can get the Gold Tracer to +5, and maybe we can upgrade some armor while we're here. It wouldn't hurt. My first few tries against Calamite were very messy. I didn't make much progress and instead was stuck in a loop of get hit, run away to heal, get hit, run away to heal, die. I had a lot of adjustments to make, 1 to Calamite's moveset, and 2 to the Gold Tracer's left-hand moveset. Unlike attacking from the right hand, both the light and heavy attacks are auto combos, meaning each attack is a commitment. I have to consider this when going in to punish him, like with Artorias. I can't always use the windows I'm used to, I have to adjust my timing to work with the Tracer. Once we find our openings, the Gold Tracer immediately starts to shine in this fight. The bleed buildup is good, the physical damage is pretty good, and of course, every attack looks so cool with the golden trails it leaves behind. The main attacks I try to punish are any of the fire breath attacks, which can easily be baited out, and the tail slam follow-up when he glides towards you, which can also be baited by circling around his tail right after he lands. This fight felt fair to me, he wasn't too difficult to hit, and we got plenty of time to use our healing. The Gold Tracer is also very rewarding here when you finally get him to bleed after committing to several combos. I would go straight to Manus from here, but I completely forgot about Gwyndolin. I guess I didn't know what to do for this. I can't kill Guinevere, trust me I tried, and I also can't pick up the ring, so I guess I'll have to use another glitch for this. I saw this from someone else. You can jump towards the statue and quit out mid-jump, and when you load back in, the wall will be gone. I don't consider this a major glitch, it's more like a skip, so I'll allow it. When it's this late in the game, Gwyndolin's just a formality. Of course I still got hit, but I'm doing so much damage that it doesn't even matter. I'll take the free level anyway. I could always use some vitality for Manus. This fight was a lot easier than Calamite for me and only took 2 tries, but the second try was very drawn out. Unsurprisingly, it's yet another battle of patience. Manus is not going to bleed, so we're reliant on the physical damage alone, which is going to feel a lot worse than it is because of all the health he has. I was braver here than I was with Calamite and was confident enough to punish most of his moves, but at the same time, I knew when I had to play it safe and focus on healing. This is one of the fights where I like to top off after taking a small hit, because there's always a risk of getting caught in his wombo combo. Phase 2 will up the pace since we have more chances to hit him, and apparently I can survive a missed dodge on these dark orbs, so that's one less thing to worry about. We're gonna come back from this with a fat bag of souls once we sell all his humanity to Frampt. Naturally, everything we make from that will be going towards our health. And now for Gwyn, which was actually a struggle at first. My main problem was that I was rushing him down as if I were two-handing this weapon and expecting him to stagger and yield to my spam. Don't be deceived by the length of the combos. The gold tracer in the left hand is not going to stagger Gwyn before he can fight back, at least not with our build. Maybe you'll get lucky and he'll go for a grab a few times in a row, in which case you might stagger him, but in any other situation, his combos are going to beat yours every time. I don't have enough poise to escape all of his combos, so if I miss a roll, I'm just dead. I did level Vitality to 30 and change some of my armor to optimize poise and defense, but it won't help me if I keep trying to force a playstyle that is clearly not suited to our left-hand setup. Other than parrying, he does have a weakness we can exploit. His ranged attacks are much easier to punish than his close ones. The latter is typically harder to react to and can be extended into ridiculous combos. However, we can mitigate this threat entirely by simply backing up the entire time. It may be the lamest strategy in the world, but it works. He only commits to a combo if we stay close. Most of his ranged attacks shouldn't be any more than 2 attacks at once. Even with this strategy, it can be hard to avoid the hitbox of his sword. One of the more difficult parts of this fight for me was finding a chance to use heal. No matter where I am, he will chase me and he will catch me. I swear, there are no natural openings for this, and you have to trick him into trying to stab you through the rocks. I guess that in itself is the opening. Putting those rocks in the arena was definitely not a coincidence. After a long fight with the Lord of Cinder, I gained a deeper appreciation of the flame, and chose to sacrifice myself to keep it lit as long as I could. Thank you all for watching this video all the way through. I hope you enjoyed this run as much as I did. It's a simple concept, but as you saw, it can lead to some interesting strategies and workarounds for the parts of the game we usually take for granted. As always, feel free to suggest an idea for a run if you have one, and if you want to see more challenges and themed playthroughs of the Souls games, I have many more videos posted on my channel. I'll see you next time.